Oshkosh 2020, here we come.
Flight of 2 for the overhead.
We landed here.
We're looking at an F-111F.
Hello, and welcome back for the second installment of Varkfest 2020, aka Varks. Where we left off, we just finished day one, spent the night in Billings, Montana, and, well, that brings us to current. If you like this video, hit subscribe and also like the video. It helps me know that people are interested in this, and also it gets more RV content highlighted here on YouTube, which is awesome. Alright, with that PSA, on to Varkfest Part 2. So the plan today is to fly out of Billings and then head to Duluth Sky Harbor. We'll probably just take it easy. It's only a few hours in flight, so we'll stop at a few airports along the way, see some stuff. And then we're gonna camp in Duluth tonight, and that airport looks amazing. I've never been. This will be my first time, even though I'm from the Midwest, as is Brian. So we'll get the planes put together, get everything packed back in there, and we'll get out of here.
All right, we are following a citation out of here. We're flight of 2 out through the Class Charlie from Billings on our way to Duluth. Billings departure, RV 9 semi-problem flight shows that we're clear to the east. We'd like to cancel flight following and thank you for the help today.
RV 7 Mike Bravo flight, radar service terminus, squat VFR, if you can change groove, have a good flight.
7 Mike Bravo flight, thanks. Rock and roll, man, that airspace is great. Those folks, I love them.
Yeah, that was easy.
Leaving Billings, I don't feel like the cockpit video does as good of a job as, say, a satellite view, as we flew from Billings to Bismarck. Once we got clear of the Class Charlie, we just continued along the Yellowstone River to the northeast, and that's really what I wanted to show you here, is just how stark of a contrast there is between the Yellowstone River and all the green, lush vegetation that's there, compared to the terrain around it, which is really spectacular from the air in person. Once we got about halfway, we made a turn towards Bismarck, almost direct. We separated, no longer flying as a section, and that gave me some latitude to have a little bit of fun. We rejoined as a section to come back into Bismarck for the overhead, and there we got some cheap gas. The FBO was awesome, and we took back off out of Bismarck as a section, and that's back where we'll pick up here with the in-cockpit video.
Back to Oshkosh 2019 and what an amazing experience that was. Flying across the country with 3 of my buddies all in our planes, meeting up with another one of our buddies in Baraboo, which I'll get to in a minute, and just so cool. Just such a good time, and can't wait to do that again, and super stoked to be doing this right now as well. Me and Brian flying across the country, just for me at least, I don't want to speak for him, having an awesome time already. And I know this is going to be just another one of those trips that I remember forever. So anybody who has the opportunity to fly to Oshkosh, I would really encourage you to do it. It was so much cooler than even I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be really cool. And doing that with my friends and just this totally amazing experience. A little bit of background maybe. I grew up going to air shows all the time. Both my dad and my grandpa would take me to air shows. I have all kinds of really cool memories from, going to those, and I was really a huge fan of military jets, probably not surprisingly, based on my career choice to go fly military jets. really informed a lot of my life, and getting to go see those planes at air shows was just something I have all these great memories of, and I wanted to fly those planes for, as long as I can remember. Rockford used to have a really big air show too called the Midwest Air Fest, and we had MiG-29s come in one year. The first tour where MiG-29s came to the U.S. and hit the air show circuit. So my grandpa would hang around the airport, and he had intel on when these planes would come in. And so we actually were at the airport, at Rockford Airport, when they came in. I remember it was 2 MiG-29s escorted by F-16s. It was just amazing. But stuff like that's what I grew up seeing. So for me, flying into Oshkosh in my own plane was just an amazing experience. But probably what I didn't anticipate fully was how cool the flight across the country was. So we spent the first night in Helena. I was flying with Vic, Andy, and Tom. And we went into town, and there was this big street fest going on. Again, 2019, pre-COVID, so all this stuff was normal. It probably seems strange to see that today.
Varks at Osh.
All right, flight of 4, getting ready to launch out of Helena. Here we go.
One of the things we did is after we left Helena, we flew over Yellowstone National Park, which was amazing. Now you have to be above the park by at least 2,000. There's a lot of terrain, so you're kind of wedged in some places where you only have a small margin of altitude to work with. And for us, we were getting beat up pretty good by some turbulence, and so couldn't get the pictures I was really hoping to, but it was awesome, especially, seeing the geysers, seeing Old Faithful from the air. Grand Prismatic from the air is just incredible. And we got to see all of that, which was really cool. I think it was probably cooler for me than for my friends, but for me, we used to go to Yellowstone and national parks across the U.S. quite a bit. That was our family vacations. And so getting to see it from the air like that was just amazing for me to get to do. And my friends at least humored me. Hopefully they enjoyed it as well. But it was really, really cool. And some other just awesome experiences, you're collectively working through how you're going to get across the country with things like weather and where you're going to stay. And so we went in to Rapid City, and even though Sturgis hadn't kicked off yet, there was still not too many hotels. There was a Corvette convention coming through town at that time. It was a little tough to get a hotel room. It was cool, we're all driving around checking stuff out, seeing all the different sights and sounds of the area, so that was really fun.
That's a video. Even better.
So out of Rapid City the next morning, the weather was a little bit less than ideal, and so we needed to wait it out for a little bit. Rapid City is KRAP.
We are in Kilo Romeo Alpha Papa. That's crap. Living up to the name a little bit.
We had to get a special VFR clearance out of there. It was super easy. The ceilings were high enough, and we were able to get through as a flight of 4 with no issue. But waiting for the weather to get to that point, you never know what weather's going to do. So what we did is we went into a place called Yankton, and the weather was kind of challenging because the bad weather was ahead of where we were headed to, and we could see it off in the horizon. And so we did a pit stop there and waited for the weather to clean up a little bit so we could go off on our next legs.
Little stopover in Yankton, South Dakota. We got some bad weather and some good weather. See over yonder, it's the bad weather. That's where we came from.
We knew that going towards Oshkosh, there were actually literally tornado warnings and huge thunderstorms building up over that area. So we need to be pretty mindful of the weather. Now what's cool is now you have iPads and you have all these tools available, so we could watch the weather forming and we could see where people are flying to avoid that, kind of as a little bit of beta. But also as we were flying, we could actually see it perfectly. And On my left side, I had these building storms that are just very clearly something we didn't want to get involved in. And then on the right side was pretty nice weather comparatively. And so we were skirting along that line between the two. It was actually pretty smooth air, and it looked just visually impressive having that huge storm right beside us. Our plan was to get into Madison, which was, for us, went exactly as planned, but the people who were there the night before weren't able to get out. Luckily, we had booked a hotel early enough that we could get one because a lot of people had to rebook their reservations the next day, and some people couldn't get hotels because of that. And we got there, and there was a huge ramp of Moonies, and I'll admit, just between you and me, I actually think Moonies are kind of a cool plane. One of our friends and an aardvark, who has a waiver, obviously, to be an aardvark without an RV, but he flies a Mooney, and so he was still there, and they were doing the mass arrival the next day. They had to push it off a day for the group of Moonies.
Just pulled into Madison. A few other planes here. And then there's a whole nother ramp of Moonies. So lots of stuff going on, I can dig it. But the Varks have arrived.
So we spent the night in Madison, which was per our plan, briefed everything up. Tom and Vic and Andy have all been to Oshkosh before. Tom kind of went through all the different stuff with us, kind of led the brief on how we're going to get in. We elected to have Vic lead us in, a little bit selfishly on my part, because I wanted to sit in dash 4 in the slot and kind of look at what was going on and kind of drink it all in. And that was my game plan, and I was able to execute on that one. It also was great having these experienced people leading us into Oshkosh. I'd never been in there before, so I could kind of learn a little bit from them. So now, another year when I go, hopefully next year, I'd be comfortable doing that. So we got up the next morning, and that's when everything started to unfold, not the way we planned.
All right, it is 6:36. Just got to the plane. We still got the warbirds out there. Got our planes ready. Looks like a beautiful day. Got Tom, Andy, and Vic. Vic's gonna lead us into victory in Oshkosh. Here we go. Buckle up.
Anybody who's familiar with Oshkosh 2019 knows how this unfolded. In the morning, they thought it would dry out from the sun, but that wasn't really happening. And so initially there were no arrivals, and then they opened it up for Tundra tires only, so aircraft with Tundra tires could go in. None of us have Tundra tires. I actually have extra small RV wheels even compared to the norm, so that wasn't going to work for any of us, and it wasn't allowed. They wouldn't let you in. They'd turn you back if you didn't have Tundra tires. So we waited and waited and waited, and once it looked like they were going to open it up, we decided to make the aggressive call that we were going to try to get airborne to get ahead of everybody else to not get stuck in the mass arrivals. And so what we did was launched out of Madison, which was actually funny. As we were launching, Madison asked where we were going as a flight of 4, and we said Oshkosh, and they said, you know it's closed. We were like, yeah, we know, we're going to just orbit and wait. And so we went up and orbited around Green Lake, which is one of the kind of main orbit points before you go into Oshkosh. And so we did a few orbits there, and it became apparent that there was not going to be any updates, and we were kind of in a position where we needed to make another plan off of our plan there. And so we elected to go in and land at Baraboo, which is a little bit closer than Madison for us to Oshkosh. We thought that would position us in a great place to get in the planes and go as soon as they did say that Oshkosh was open. So we landed there. Another friend of ours, Neil, showed up, also an aardvark, although he was not flying his RV. He was flying his larger aircraft. And so he met us there in Baraboo, which was also super cool.
Well, we officially decided to call it because Neil in our beer delivery wagon has arrived. And I just took off my wheel pants as a preventative measure for sinking in. Things are going pretty good so far. This is Ace Nelson coming to you live from Baraboo.
So all of a sudden the texts start coming through. So people on the text list from Oshkosh are getting lists that Oshkosh is open. And I mean, I'll throw a screenshot up on here, but it looked like, you know, day 1, wave 1 airstrike going in with how many planes were headed in towards Oshkosh. And I kind of was thinking about it and thought this is probably the most dangerous airspace in the world, and we are knowingly heading into this. But, you know, for Oshkosh 2019, just like it is for 2020, the safest bet would be to not get in your plane. You know, you don't have to fly to Oshkosh to begin with. But for me, it was super cool because I, again, had that feeling kind of like Red Flag, where there's planes everywhere, everybody's working kind of as a community to collectively and collaboratively make it work and head into Oshkosh with these thousands of planes all in the same airspace. And there's a video, I think it was from AOA, and I'll link it here on the video, but they have a really cool video on the ground with the makeshift tower at Oshkosh, and I'll link the exact time where you can see our planes coming in to Oshkosh there as a group.
Directly over Fisk, turn left. Flight of 2 Cessnas directly over Fisk, turn left. You gotta get out of there. Flight of 2, there you go. The RVs, are you a flight? Like 5 RVs? Are you flight? I hope. Flight of 4. Flight of 4. Flight of 4 RVs directly over Fisk, turn right. Flight of 4 RVs directly over Fisk, turn right. Runway 36. Left base entry to runway 36. The flight of 4 RVs, enter that left base runway 36. Flight of 4, monitor tower 126.6. The yellow RV directly.
Just to stay alive. But when we're done with this city, we're going back to the hills to take it all back somehow. We're taking it back somehow. Oh no, we don't need another warfare. Warfare at the door. Oh no, we don't need another.
In comes the welcome wagon. The massive moose. The almighty and powerful deer killer. Smoking it up.
Just like an old elephant, we're going back to the start. Find a place in the shade. Oh, in the shade.
Well, Oshkosh itself was just amazing. I had such a good time. And then the trip home was also cool, and it's different. You know, the trip out there, all 4 of us flying together, me, Vic, Tom, and Andy. And then on the way back, it was a little different because I was flying back by myself. So I went to Rockford, Illinois, again, my hometown, and flew in there to see my parents. And then my dad flew back to Seattle with me in my plane. And that was super cool as well, to get to fly in my plane with my dad and do this kind of road trip, air trip, I don't know, across the country looking at cool stuff, you know, stuff we had seen I don't know how many times driving, because we drove across the country for vacations almost every year as a family. But getting to see it from the air with my dad was really cool. And probably the coolest part was flying through the Badlands. Not the national park, but to the south of it, where there's nothing there. We could get low and really get in close with the ground and the terrain.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video right here. It is real time, post Varkfest 2020 and obviously post Oshkosh 2019. But as I was editing the video, it seemed like a nice place to stop as I concluded the recap, if you will, of Oshkosh 2019. Also, this lets me have all of Duluth Sky Harbor in one video together. I realize it might seem a little strange because I'm literally mid-flight between Bismarck and Duluth Sky Harbor, but this way we can put all of that in one place. And also, the next video will be the coolest, visually, the coolest video that I've ever done, so I'm looking forward to that as well. With that, I actually need to go ahead and go flying, so I will catch you on the next video.